It's time for the Josh Kirby on Sports Podcast.
The World Series is here. I'm joined by Matthew Adkins of Foul Ball Area as we break down the MLB playoffs along with preview the World Series between the Houston Astros and the Atlanta Braves. That's all coming your way next. You're listening to the Kirby on Sports Podcast.
Shout out Q. Shout out Q.
Oh, indeed. I'm glad you connected. This is Dave Johnson, voice of the Washington Wizards. You have connected to the right place because you are listening to my man, Josh Kirby, on Sports Podcast.
Coming to you from the Trumbull Insurance Agency virtual studio. Turn your stress and anxiety into peace and security with Trumbull Insurance. Contact Patrick Bankemper for all your insurance needs. 540-532-0622 or drop him an email, patrick@trumbullagency.com. For our sponsors, Regroup Building Services, PM Plus Reserves, Shenandoah Primitives, Dr. Dave Leadership Corporation, and Mark Francis with Icon Real Estate. You're probably wondering why we have another episode for you. We usually do one a week, but we're doing twice this week. It's a very special occasion that I would hate myself forever if we did not cover this in some way, shape, or form. The World Series in the MLB playoffs. The MLB playoffs has wrapped up, so we will briefly break down the MLB playoffs along with preview the World Series, and none better to help me do that by bringing on Foul Ball Area's very own Matthew Adkins. Matt, thanks for the time, brother. How you been?
I've been good, man. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to recap the playoffs so far, talk about everything that's gone down, and of course, preview the World Series with my Atlanta Braves getting in their first time in 22 years. So I'm really, really excited for that. Excited to talk about it.
A big Braves fan Matt is, and his team is going to the World Series. So, I mean, first and foremost, congratulations. I know you got a new job, so I'm happy for you there. I hope things are going well for you.
Thank you. Yeah, things are going really well. I'm working as a producer at WRIC 8 News down here in Richmond. So I've shifted over to the TV world. It's a little bit different than radio, but it's been fun so far. I'm learning a lot, and I'm putting together the news every night for the people of Richmond. So it's a fun time.
Yeah, that must be incredible, man. So I'm happy for you. Glad you could be on here again. So without further ado, let's get right into it, Matt. I mean, starting off, we'll briefly recap these playoffs. I don't want to spend too much time, but just enough so we can get all our listeners what you missed, because we've been talking NFL nonstop. So starting off with the AL wild card. I mean, Matt, this AL wild card seemed to be neck and neck going into the postseason, and it was like a 3-4-way tie at one point. I was like, this is incredible.
Yeah, that was a really, really fun race to watch as we got down into the home stretch of the regular season. That was one of the ones that I was keeping an eye on the whole time, along with a couple of other races around the league. But that was really exciting. I think there were 4 teams that were really in contention for it, a couple that were just a few games behind them. So it was a really fun race to watch. And I mean, that's what you hope for in late September baseball.
Yeah. And it came down to the Boston Red Sox and the New York Yankees, rivals, in a 1-game win or go home situation. I mean, there's nothing better than the Yankees and Red Sox in a wild card matchup to determine who moves on to the next round. Am I right there?
Yeah, that was a really, really fun matchup. Obviously, the biggest rivalry in Major League Baseball, the Yankees and the Red Sox. So when you put them all together, in a situation like that, winner take all, whether it's a one game wild card playoff or if they meet in a later series and go to game 7, it's always exciting when it's a winner take all game between the Yankees and the Red Sox. So I think a lot of people were really happy with that matchup and really excited for it when they went up to Fenway Park.
Yes, Matt, I was very excited about this matchup, but the Yankees, I'm not sure what it was. A rivalry game. I thought this would be close and competitive till the end, but the Boston Red Sox just took it right from them. It seemed like the Yankees had no life. And I was very surprised to see that in this series, but the Boston Red Sox, they looked dominant all the way through that wild card game, and they ended up beating the Yankees.
Yeah, this is the narrative you're going to hear now, is that Garrett Cole is not able to win those big games for the Yankees. And that's what they brought him to New York to do, is win those big games. This situation, this wild card game against the Red Sox, that is why they signed Garrett Cole. And he couldn't deliver in that situation. So now, until he does, that's the narrative that you're going to hear. Until he goes out there and wins a wild card game or wins a game 7 of a playoff series, this is the narrative that you're going to hear, because that's why he is a New York Yankee, to win those big games. And he wasn't able to deliver this year against the Red Sox. And I was surprised too, because he's arguably the best pitcher in the American League. He is a very talented pitcher. He can shut down opposing teams, but he just wasn't able to do it this time against Boston. It was an exciting matchup going into it. The game didn't really live up to the hype that much because the Red Sox did dominate them. So I was very surprised by the outcome of the game as well.
Yeah, so Boston, moving on, we will talk about the matchup between Boston and Tampa Bay in just a moment. But the NL wild card, that did not disappoint, Matt. The Los Angeles Dodgers and the St. Louis Cardinals, and it ended up coming down to the bottom of the ninth, the Dodgers walking it off, which was incredible. I stayed up to watch that game. I mean, this is a different issue for a different time, but I will say the timing of some of these baseball games are absolutely ridiculous. So I'm just going to throw that out there now. And I lost sleep over it, but I mean, looking at the Dodgers, yes, I will touch on my Nationals a little bit, how they traded Scherzer and Turner to the Dodgers and made the Dodgers look, I mean, it was incredible just seeing how much power they have, adding Scherzer, at least in this game, and Turner to the lineup. It was crazy. And seeing Juan Soto and Kevin Long in the stands when Los Angeles beat St. Louis to move on, that was just crazy to me, because seeing what the Nationals have been through and ended up sitting at home, for Juan Soto and Kevin Long supporting two former Nationals, that was very cool to see.
Yeah, that was really cool to see him show up to that game. I don't know, you don't really see that often, current players going to playoff games of their own league. So that was pretty cool that he's just there to support his former teammates, Trey Turner and Max Scherzer. And I think I was actually going through a little bit of an illness during that game, so I was not able to stay up for that whole game. But man, from what I heard, it was really exciting, and I wish I'd stayed up for it, because the walk-off win by the Dodgers, going up against the Cardinals, who were probably the hottest team going into the postseason. They had such a fantastic month of September. They were on fire going into the playoffs, and you pit these two teams against each other. And, a lot of people saying it's not fair that the Dodgers had to even play in the wild card game, given that they were a 107 win team this year. So it was that was an exciting matchup too on the National League side. And that one, I think, lived up to the hype a little more, given that it was a walk-off victory.
And I'll tell you what, Matt, that NL West standings came down to the wire once again. I mean, it was the Dodgers and the Giants neck and neck, and it was like, who's going to win the division here? I mean, coming down to the wire there, I was like, man, this is another close race that could be big in deciding playoff implications.
Yeah, obviously that was a huge division battle. That was the one that I was paying attention to the most throughout the last month of the regular season, because you have these two teams that are the best two teams in baseball, and they're both winning over 100 games. I think it's the first time that they've had teams win this many games and face each other in the playoffs, when they eventually did in the postseason. But the fact that one of these teams was going to win their division and the other team was going to have to play in the wild card game, I mean, that was huge because anything can happen in a wild card game. It's one game. Anything can happen in baseball in one game. And so the fact that the Dodgers had the season that they did, played as well as they did over the span of 162 games, and then they have to go and play a one-game playoff. A lot of people didn't think that was fair, but that's the way the playoffs are set up. And so somebody's got to do it. Unfortunately for them, they were the team that had to do it, but it turned out well for them as they ended up beating the Cardinals anyway. So, but that NL West division was so fun to watch. And obviously we all thought the Padres were going to be in the mix. They fell out. They had a really terrible season compared to their expectations, but the Giants and the Dodgers, it was great for baseball because that's a great rivalry. You talk about the Red Sox and the Yankees being the best rivalry in Major League Baseball. Well, I think Dodgers Giants is right behind it as the second best. So it was really, really fun to see those two teams go at it all season long.
Absolutely. So the AL and NL wild card, the Red Sox beat the Yankees. The Dodgers walk off the St. Louis Cardinals, and eventually the Cardinals just got rid of their manager, Mike Shildt, which I was sort of surprised about. But moving on, I feel like the West, in getting into the actual playoffs here, not just the wild card, I feel like the West was lopsided with Boston and Houston winning their series 3-1 in both series. And then the East sort of made it more competitive. I mean, the Braves over the Brewers 3-1 in the series. And then, like you said, the rivalry between the Dodgers and the Giants, 3-2 in that series. I mean, what did you see the gameplay? Am I right in my prediction there? Because I mean, I've caught on and off, but I feel like that. The NL was more competitive than the AL there.
Yeah, I think you're probably right about that. To be honest, my reactions to the first rounds of the playoffs, I was surprised that the Rays lost to the Red Sox. I mean, the Rays were the best team in the American League, one of the best teams in Major League Baseball all season long. And you talk about MLB playoffs. I don't know. I could go into a whole thing about the playoffs because you have this whole 162 game season, which really shows you who's the best team. And then you have these playoffs, and it's really not about who's the best team. It's about who's hot right now. And so the Red Sox were hot. They were able to play 3 games really well and beat the Rays. I think the Rays were the better team, but the Red Sox got the best of them and they ended up winning that division series. Recently we have seen a lot of number 1 seeds make it all the way to the World Series. Like last year, we saw the Rays and the Dodgers in the World Series. They were each the number 1 seed in their respective leagues, but this year it didn't work out that way. And the Red Sox were able to knock off the Rays. And so I was surprised about that, but the Red Sox have been playing really well. The Astros, I'm not surprised that they won. I was rooting for the White Sox in that series. I really like the White Sox. I think they're a fun team to watch. They're kind of like the Padres of the American League with all the young talent they have, all the power that they have. I mean, they're just a really fun team to watch. So I really like them coming out of the American League. But the Astros are still the Astros. No matter what you say about them, yeah, they cheated in 2017. They may have cheated in seasons after that. Who knows what they're doing now? They're still playing well, and there's a reason they're where they are right now. Like, they're a good team. They're a good team. And so I was not surprised that they ended up beating the White Sox, although I was rooting for Chicago in that series. But yeah, I don't know. The Astros, they're good. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, I saw in that Boston Tampa Bay series, though, it seemed like there were a lot of lead changes, and the amount of home runs hit I found surprisingly more than other series, which it's very entertaining to me just watching teams go up and jack home runs. And yeah, I mean, hearing those home run calls, it's just crazy. I just love it when playoff baseball is here and you hear those home run calls. It gives you sort of like chills.
Yeah, it definitely does. That's definitely a talent that announcers have to work on, is being able to perfect your home run call. But if you get a good one in playoff baseball, especially in a big moment late in the game, if you're trailing or if it's a tie game and you hit a home run to take the lead, man, those are the big moments. Those are the moments that I think, the players and us as fans all live for.
Before we move on, give me your thoughts about the Braves and the Brewers series there.
Yeah, so I've told a couple people this going into that series. Just looking at it on the surface, I was like, all right, the Brewers are like a underdog, dark horse World Series candidate. They're a very good team. They can make it all the way. The Braves have, they haven't been good until the second half of the season. So I think that the Brewers are going to win this series. But then I looked into it a little more and I was like, all right, the Braves have a very powerful lineup. Their infield has to be among the best infields of all time offensively. They've got a decent bullpen. They've got a couple of really good starters. And the Brewers lost one of the best starters in the league, Devin Williams, to a dumb injury going into this series. So looking into it a little deeper, I was like, all right, the Braves can actually win this series. And then they went in there and they lost the first game in Milwaukee. But then they came back and won 3 straight games, won the second game in Milwaukee and won 2 more at home in Atlanta. And I wasn't really surprised. I was like, yeah, the Braves are good and they're able to win this series. So I was really happy with that series. Obviously, they won. I thought that they played really well. They pitched really well, which is really encouraging. So I was really, really happy with the way that series turned out.
Absolutely. So moving on to the championship series in the ALCS, the Boston Red Sox facing the Houston Astros, the Los Angeles Dodgers facing your Atlanta Braves. Starting with Boston and Houston, I feel like Boston came into this series red hot and then the tables just turned. Houston came back, started getting hot, and ended up beating Boston in this series 4-2.
Yeah, I mean, Houston is just on another level right now, and especially Yordan Alvarez, who ended up winning the ALCS MVP. In this series, he batted .522 with a home run and 6 RBIs. I mean, I think he set the record for the highest average in a league championship series of all time, .522 over the span of those 6 games. That was crazy. I mean, the Astros are just so good. They're all, firing on all cylinders right now. The Red Sox just weren't able to keep their magic going. You always got to watch out for the Red Sox, even when they're a wild card team. They can make a run. They can go pretty far. But Yordan Alvarez really led the Astros to this ALCS win, and they're looking really good right now going into this World Series.
Yeah, and I'll give my thoughts a little bit later, but the Dodgers and the Braves, I mean, to me, I was tuning into most of this series because first and foremost, I felt like after the trade the Nats made to send Scherzer and Turner to the Dodgers, I felt like that solidified the Dodgers' case to make it back to the World Series. But I feel like the Dodgers really mismanaged Max Scherzer. And somehow he got injured. I heard he was not available for that last start where the Braves ended up clinching that series. I want to get your thoughts since you were tuned in more than me, Matt, but what did you see there from their pitching for the Dodgers?
I mean, their pitching is very good. These first 2 games of this series were both walk-off wins by the Braves. Mm-hmm. So it was very close. Very competitive games, the first 2 games of the NLCS. And then going into Los Angeles is where the Dodgers kind of fell apart. And that you talk about mismanaging Max Scherzer. I mean, he was supposed to pitch this last game, game 5 of the series, but he said that his arm was just not able to go, or game 6 it was. Yeah, game 6. But he said his arm just wasn't able to go. And so they just used him too much. And, that's what's so important in postseason baseball is managing your pitchers, because that is what's going to win you championships, because everybody has a great lineup as if you've gotten this far. So it's the pitching is what is going to win you championships. So you have to keep you guys as fresh as possible. Yeah. It is the playoffs. They have nothing to lose. They're going to get 6 months off after this, but you got to still manage them and make sure they're going to be able to go when it's their time. And the Dodgers didn't do that with Max Scherzer, who has a very good case for the Cy Young this year. He's still one of the best pitchers in the league. Mm-hmm. And so that's a big mistake on their part, and it ultimately paid off for the Braves.
It sort of reminds me of back when the Nats made their World Series run. Max Scherzer was out for 1 game and Joe Ross had to pitch. and he eventually came back, and the story from there. But I mean, still, Max Scherzer's a great pitcher, and it was just a very competitive series. The Braves have a lot of hot bats on their team.
Yeah, they do. I had a lot of fun watching this series. Obviously, the first 2 games, the walk-off wins in Atlanta, those were huge. Going into LA, up 2-0. I was feeling good, but I was thinking about last year when they blew a 3-1 lead, and I didn't want that to happen again. So they go to LA, they lose game 3, they come back and win game 4. And then game 5, I was like, all right, this is it. They're going to close it out tonight. They got Max Fried on the mound. They're playing well. They're going to close it out. And then they go out and lose like 11-2. Chris Taylor has the game of the playoffs, 3 home runs. So that was a great game by Chris Taylor, but unfortunately the Braves couldn't close it out there. But I think it worked out better because then they come back to Atlanta for game 6 and they end up getting the win at home in Atlanta. I think that was really cool for them to clinch it on their home field. But a really fun series, really competitive. I was a little worried throughout the whole series that the Braves were going to blow it again, but they were able to hold on this time, and I could not be happier.
Absolutely. So the series is set. The Houston Astros and the Atlanta Braves. We'll preview that matchup coming up next right here on the Kirby on Sports podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, let me just tell you about Regroup Building Services. If you're looking to get your home remodeled, any part of your home, bathroom, kitchen, want to get a deck built, anything like that, Regroup Building Services can just about do everything. And take it from me, because they came in and they remodeled my family's kitchen, and they do a great job. So if you're looking for any sort of home remodeling needs, deck work done, anything of that nature, reach out to my guy Sean Hibbard over at Regroup Building Services today. You can check them out on their website, www.regroupbuildingservices.com, where they do the honeydews that your honey don't. Make sure you tell them Josh sent you. For sports fans living in condominium and homeowners associations, as well as business professionals, when you need a reserve study, PM Plus Reserves has been in business since 1990. Their studies are accurate and easy to understand. Check them out when your association needs a study. www.pmplusreserves.com. You can also contact them at 703-803-8436. Once again, www.pmplusreserves.com. Is it finally time to upgrade your home's interior? How about with an authentic farm table made locally from recycled barnwood? Shenandoah Primitives, based right here in Winchester, Virginia, makes farm tables, benches, tables, coffee tables, and a long list of other items for your home decorating needs. At Shenandoah Primitives, function and style are combined for great furniture that will last generations. If you're interested in combining the industrial look of metal with wood, or considering something incredibly unique with a live edge, Shenandoah Primitives turns those ideas into reality. Thinking about a mirror, wine rack, or other accent piece for your home, Shenandoah Primitives can assist with that as well. As a local small business, Shenandoah Primitives is happy to work with each client for a custom design or schedule an appointment to come out and view current inventory. Local, high-quality, handmade items can be found at Shenandoah Primitives. Find us on Facebook and Instagram, or visit us at www.shenandoahprimitives.com. Once again, that's www.shenandoahprimitives.com.
Hey, sports fans. Thank you for listening to and supporting the Kirby on Sports podcast with founder and host Josh Kirby, along with lead contributor Dan Dembski. Like, subscribe, and give them a 5-star rating wherever you get your podcast from. My name is Dr. Dave Miles, founder of Dr. Dave Leadership Corporation. Our company helps leaders build engaged and productive teams. Exclusively for listeners of the Kirby on Sports podcast, you can take an opportunity to discover your primary communication style and learn more about effective communication with others. Text Kirby to to 757-903-0743 for your free copy of the Working From Home Communication Assessment, where you'll learn your primary communication style, how to better communicate with others not like you, and tips on working remotely based on your personal communication style. 10 minutes, tons of resources. Learn about yourself and your team. Again, text Kirby to 757-903-0743 for your free assessment report today. I'm Dr. Dave Miles, founder of Dr. Dave Leadership Corporation, where we help you and your team be more engaged and productive by understanding each other better. Back to you, Josh.
Hey there, this is Mark Francis of Icon Real Estate. If you have any real estate needs in the Winchester surrounding area, including West Virginia, give me a call. I've got extensive experience, been in the business for almost 20 years, and would love to help you out. Track me down at Icon Real Estate, iconsells.com, or even give me a call, 540-247-1527. Again, Icon Sells, ICONSELLS.com, and I would love to chat with you and help you out. Give me a call.
All right. Welcoming you back to the Kirby on Sports podcast. Once again, I'm joined by Matthew Adkins of the Foul Ball Area podcast. Make sure you check out all of his work. He does a great job. One of the best I know talking baseball. Matt, the World Series is set. The Houston Astros in the Atlanta Braves. I'm going to give you my thoughts here. Seeing Houston make it to this point, it absolutely disgusts me. After what Houston has done, it's absolutely terrible in my opinion. The only person I am rooting for is Dusty Baker, because after what he has gone through with the Nationals organization, I feel like he was let go for no good reason. But for him to be in a position back in the World Series, that's the only person I'm rooting for. I'm not rooting for any of the Astros. I'm rooting for Dusty Baker alone.
If the Braves weren't in it, I could join you in that because I love Dusty Baker. I mean, let's just talk about him for a second. He's the first manager to win a division title with 5 different teams. He's, I think, the 7th or 9th or somewhere around there manager to take a team to the World Series in both leagues, because he took the Giants to the World Series in 2002, but he's never won it. And so I really like Dusty Baker. I think he's a great manager, a great baseball guy, a lifelong baseball guy. And it would be cool to see him get a World Series win, but obviously I don't want him to beat the Braves. But a cool fact is he made his debut as a player for the Braves against the Astros, and now he's managing in the World Series for the Astros against the Braves. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. He's like the 9th manager to win a pennant for both the AL and NL side. So that is a very cool fact as well.
Yeah. So I like Dusty Baker, but I'm still got to root for the Braves.
Yeah, obviously. Let's talk about the Braves, Matt. It's crazy to see the Atlanta Braves, and I want to get your thoughts on this. The Atlanta Braves getting to the spot they are in right now without Ronald Acuna Jr. because his terrible injury. And I mean, what are your thoughts there? Because I know they have a lot of hot bats. They have a lot of great players. Ozzy Albies is just an amazing talent in my eyes. So give me your thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people will wrongfully use this to diminish the impact that Ronald Acuna Jr. has on the team. They'll say, oh, well, they made it to the World Series without him. They don't need him. No, he's a top 5 player in the league. Obviously, they're going to take him any day of the week. And I'm sad that they made it this far and he's not a part of it. You know, he's been in the dugout. He's been with the team. He's been there. He'll get a ring if they win. But I'm sad that he doesn't get to really be a part of it and be playing on the field. I'm sad for him for that. But it just really speaks to what the Braves did this season, what the front office did, because he went down a little before halfway through the season. He got injured. And at that point, the Braves were playing losing baseball. They had a losing record. He was the only bright spot on the team. And then he gets injured. They go out there at the deadline. They get guys like Jock Peterson. They get guys like Adam Duvall, Jorge Soler. I mean, they remade their outfield. And it really paid off because they lost. Not only did they lose Ronald Acuna Jr., but they lost Marcell Ozuna, who had some off the field issues, and he's no longer with the team. So those are two big bats in the lineup in the outfield that they didn't have anymore. So they had to go out there and make acquisitions at the deadline, and they did exactly what they needed to do. And it's paid off because their outfield has been, phenomenal since the trade deadline, and it's really, really worked out for them.
Absolutely. So, looking at game one here tomorrow night as we are recording, Charlie Morton for the Braves on the mound against Framber Valdez. How do you see this series playing out? I know you're more of a Braves fan, but I feel like this series could easily go back and forth. Could potentially see a game 7 as well. Give me your thoughts there.
I think it could go either way. I think the Astros are the better team overall. But like I said a few minutes ago, playoff baseball is about who's hot right now. And the Braves are hot. Obviously, the Astros have been playing very well in the postseason, but the Braves are really hot right now. Their pitching has been phenomenal. Their bats have come alive. I mean, there's not a weakness on this team right now. So I think it's going to be a very competitive series. I think it will go 7 games. And when it goes to 7 games, it's a toss-up. So I'm just going to go with my Braves.
So, Matt, I mean, I know you're from Richmond, currently in Richmond. It's sort of a hike to Atlanta. Are we going to see you at one of those World Series games?
I looked at the schedule. So game 4 will be Saturday, October 30th in Atlanta. I think it's about 7.5 to 8 hour drive. I know we are supposed to go to my sister-in-law's birthday party or Halloween party, October 30th. But if there's a chance to go to a World Series game, I might skip that. So gonna run it by the fiance, see what she thinks. But I mean, you can't pass that up, right?
Yeah, you can't. It's crazy. It's crazy even for me, my experience at the wild card game where the Nats beat the Brewers. I mean, playoff baseball, there is nothing more electric.
I have done something like that before. I have a fun story about going down to Atlanta for a playoff game.
Let's hear that.
It was a couple years ago, 2018. They were playing the Dodgers in the NLDS, and the Braves won game 3. And so that extended the series. That took it to game 4 in Atlanta. My roommate and I, we were in college at the time. We woke up that morning, said, screw it, let's buy tickets, let's go. We were talking about it the night before, and he was like, let me sleep on it. So we woke up, tickets were still available for pretty cheap. So we bought them. We emailed our professors, said we were not going to be at class that day, and we took off down the interstate. 30 minutes into the drive, got pulled over, got a speeding ticket.
Oh my gosh.
Somewhere around South Carolina or North Carolina, got a flat tire. Had to go get that changed. Made it to the game in the second inning. Stayed there, watched the game, had a beer, had a hot dog. Braves lost. It was a fun time still, even though they lost. Then we drove 8 hours home that night and took a midterm at 8 a.m. the next morning.
Oh my God. I could never. That is insane. What an incredible story. I mean, this playoffs has been fun, and I think it's going to get capped off with a bow on top of the present with this World Series matchup between the Houston Astros and the Atlanta Braves. Matt, it was fun recapping this series, the series and previewing the World Series with you. So before we let you go, once again, Foul Ball Area, what's been going on with Foul Ball Area? Tell the listeners where they can find you and what cool content you have had coming out on your show.
Well, to be honest, we haven't done much recently. I've been getting adjusted to the new job, and so I've been pretty busy with that. But we will roll out some World Series content here shortly. But mostly just been getting adjusted to the new job, working that 9 to 5 right now. And I got to say something earlier. A few minutes ago, you mentioned something about the timing of these playoff games and how you lose a lot of sleep over them. I agree with you, man. Now that I'm working a 40-hour 9 to 5 job right now, it's been tough because these games, like playoff baseball games, they're going to be around 4 hours, if not more. And they still schedule them for 8 o'clock. So midnight rolls around, they're still playing baseball. I'm like, come on, guys, we got to schedule these games for at least 7 o'clock. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know how this is doable.
man. Even in the news biz, you're still 9 to 5.
For now, I'm still in training, so we'll see. I'll probably have a crazy schedule after that.
Yeah, I can imagine there, Matt. So, Matt, once again, tell them where they can find Foul Ball Area.
Yeah, you can find it at foulballarea.com, on Twitter at foulballarea, or on Facebook, and anywhere you get your podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Pandora, anywhere.
All right, so that wraps it up. Another edition of the Kirby on Sports podcast, talking everything MLB, a recap of the playoffs and a preview of the World Series between the Houston Astros and the Atlanta Braves. Thanks once again to the virtual studio sponsors, Trumbull Insurance Agency, Patrick Bankemper with the Trumbull Insurance Agency. Contact him for all your insurance needs. 540-532-0622. And for the rest of our sponsors, Regroup Building Services, PM Plus Reserves, Shenandoah Primitives, Dr. Dave Leadership Corporation, and Mark Francis with Icon Real Estate. For Matthew Adkins, I'm Josh Kirby. Until the next time you hear our voice, always remember to create greatness. So long and peace out.